Hey, Brad, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
I love how right before we started the recording button, I was like, oh, do I call you Brad or Bradley? And you went right into it. Call me Brad. So
Names aren't that important. It's really, the content and what you provide people that I feel is important. So
yeah, I always like to ask because, I have Greg and Gregory, and people ask me, most people call me Greg. I say, you can call me Gregory, but I'll just feel like the Pope for a second. It's no big deal. Or like I'm in trouble, All right, let's dive in here. So thank you so much for coming on. We take a second and just kind of explain, tell us a little bit about your practice, what you do, and what you specialize in.
So my dad started the business in 1989, and he started it as basically a stock picker for clients with less than $25 million because that's where he was. Before that, as an institutional investment manager, he had a $25 million minimum. My career, I was an IT consultant for 2.5 years after being a computer science major at Boston University. I then became an actuary doing small business pension plans, so tax shelter for small businesses. And then my dad asked me after I had a health scare to come join his business and be a succession plan. And so we went from transforming mostly an investment management business to kind of full service wealth management, leading with financial planning that then instructs us on how we want to make investments on behalf of our clients. But I would say the uniqueness is we kind of have the investment ethos built in, and then I'm kind of the actuary / planning professional who really wants to make sure that we're aligning clients' goals and objectives with how we're doing investments for them as well.
So going from an IT professional in computer science, this is quite a change, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think in college I didn't want to do business, but I think after a while, after I realized what my skills were and what I was good at, I've always been in the service business. So I was, helping people with their computers. I had to translate what they wanted and needed fixed in their computer to make sure that it was getting done, and then also helping small business owners with, digitizing their businesses. And so, that's kind of translated into as an actuary, we were helping businesses administer their retirement plans. So that's a lot of client service, a lot of hand holding, a lot of white glove service. And that's kind of what we do in the financial planning and advising profession, is a lot of white glove service, making things easier for clients.
Yeah. So you serve a lot of business owners, or is that your core clientele?
I would say our core clientele is just individuals, families, people who really value their time and the financial advice so that they don't have to worry about it as much.
Okay, let's talk about your clients for a bit. Maybe you could describe the type of person that comes to you. What's a typical situation that they need you to help lead them through? Anything?
I mean, typically it's an uncertainty about where they are today and where they need to go in the future, and if they're in good shape from a financial perspective. A lot of times they need help defining what they want. So when can they retire? Can they continue to work at this current job? Could they take an easier job and lower the weight on what they need to do from an income perspective and saving perspective? And then a lot of it's just like the fear that's out there in the media regarding investments. And I think people need a very level-headed person who's looking for their best interests. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in our industry, it's about what goes in their pocket instead of what we can help keep in our clients' pockets. And it's also, I want to help them live their best life. I think that's the one thing that I value tremendously. A lot of it comes from, I lost my wife 2 years ago to breast cancer, and it really changed the way I thought about things. I was always pushing clients to use their money in the way that made sense for them while they're alive. But I think it really transformed how I look at clients and how I advise them on how they, think about spending and savings, for the future. So I think there's a balance, and most of our clients want that balance. Sometimes they are spending too much and they need to rein it in. We need to help them with that. But most of the time, it's actually the opposite. They don't feel comfortable spending after years of saving.
So let's dive into a little bit more about the psychology behind that, because I've heard this. I've had this shared with me repeatedly through the work that I do, and also interviewing advisors. Do you think it's just a habit thing? Like, what are some of the ways that you like encourage people to start thinking differently about it? Is it, do they just need permission? Like, why do you think there
No,
might
they need repetitive,
yeah.
you know, they need repetitive reassurance. It's like everybody, you have an idea in your head. Some people want a financial advisor just to validate their approach. Some people want a financial advisor to just delegate and tell them what to do. And I think that, we can work with either of those types of people. The important thing is open to sharing, wanting that trusted, valued relationship where they don't feel like they're a burden by calling me and asking me a question, because that's what I love to do. I want to help them answer the questions that are on their minds. And if I can help them get it off their minds faster, make a decision and move forward and trust that decision, then, I feel very fulfilled in what I'm doing for my clients.
Yeah. So you
And I
like
think it
giving
just,
that
it takes 2 to 3 years, I've noticed, from transitioning to earning income and saving to being able to really spend the money and not worry.
2 to 3 years. Anything special about that timeline? Why do you think that's a pattern? It just takes that long to reacclimate
I
yourself?
think I think it's the repetition of meeting with me or meeting with their financial advisor, and also sometimes their spouse that helps them get to that point. And it's just going through a few years and realizing that I'm not spending down my portfolio. My assets are still going up a little bit, even though I'm hopefully living your best life. And I encourage them to think about, let's say you're 70 years old. The next 10 years, you want to travel, you want to enjoy life. And if your healthcare and all that other stuff is taken care of post age 80, 85, then let's really optimize those 10, 15 years. And, not worry if you spend an extra 20, 30, $40,000 in the first 2 or 3 years, when you really want to take care of yourself, you want to take your kids on a vacation, you want to do the things that give you a sense of joy and fulfillment. And then I'm the guardrail. That's one of our core values. We're the guardrail. If we think that there's a problem, we're going to address it. We're going to tell you, and we're not going to expect you to make that change overnight. I think that's oftentimes what people fear about working with a financial advisor. I'm going to tell them they have to change all this stuff tomorrow. Well, that's not helpful or practical or enjoyable for anybody. So if we're overspending, let's create a 3 to 5 year plan to get to where we need to be. We don't need to do it tomorrow, because if you need to cut $25,000 a year in spending, we can do that over a period of time.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it right away.
Do you think that maybe one of the reasons why it takes, a couple of years to kind of settle in and feel comfortable is because there's an educational component to it? Do you find you educate your clients and help them understand more about?
No, because I think it's with current clients who are retiring. It's not just a new client. It seems to be the same with current clients. They've been clients for decades, and we've told them, here's our targets, here's what we're going for. And then they get there and they say, it's hard mentally for me to let go. And I've had clients who they're fearful they're going to live till 100 or 105. And my point is, if we're planning for 25 years, 30 years really doesn't matter that much. Sure. Because we have to sustain, your portfolio with inflation and your earning power with inflation. And so it's really almost a perpetuity. Those last 5 years don't matter as much as the first 10 years in your plan. So
that makes sense. All right, so let's talk more about what's on the mind of your clients, or when you're meeting with people who are potential clients. What are some of the questions that they'll typically ask when they meet with you for the first time?
I think for the most part, they ask questions about, where they are today. Most people want to know, how do I look today? They want that validation. Sometimes I can provide it, and other times I have to be sensitive to how I share and what I say to help them still feel good about their situation, and that I can help guide them to a path to having sustainable financial future. And part of it is like encouraging them to take a risk on a job that they may not have felt comfortable to do.
Interesting.
So like I had a client who was working at a large corporation, and he was getting recruited by a small company to be head of sales. and he wants to retire early. And at his current job, it was going to be close. It was going to, maybe he'd be able to retire in the late 50s, early 60s. And this company was offering like 1% of the company and a healthy raise to his base comp. And then, obviously variable bonus comp based on how the company's doing. And I encouraged him to consider the total package over the long run. And, the truth is, if it doesn't work out great, you took the risk. You're at the age, mid, late 40s. Now is your time to capitalize on all your experience that you've earned and your knowledge and your skills that other people don't have. And you still have the energy to drive for the next, 5 to 15 years to create generational wealth for himself and his family. If he just stayed at the corporation, he was going to do well. He was going to do great. He was going to be fine. But this could be a life-changing moment for him. And I think that my view is I can hopefully analyze people and help them make that right decision. And I felt like he's going to be successful in this role. And if he's successful in this role, he's going to make 3 times what he was going to make at the large corporation over the next 5 years.
So you inherited this. Your dad started the company, and you joined him after that.
Correct. And now I bought him out in 2020. He still works. He loves working. He's not going anywhere. He wants to be here. 20 to 40 hours a week, depending on the week. But we have a great relationship, and that's the reason I went into the business with him. We don't awesome. Fight, we don't argue, we don't disagree. We're really on the same page, and he helped and supported me through my challenge with my wife. So did my whole team, and I wanted to help him feel comfortable to be able to leave the office and go on vacations and enjoy his best life too.
That's awesome. You helped your dad retire, but he doesn't want to. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him cost certainty was what I said. I'm going to invest in the business and the future of the business by spending on marketing, by hiring people. We went from 3 to now 6 people that he may not have wanted to take that risk to do.
What were some of the values that he passed on to you that you feel like had an impact on how you approach the business and working with your clients? Does anything stand out?
It's the letting clients come to you part of it. I think it's the really treating people, with respect and kindness, understanding their feelings and emotions. He's really good at listening to people. And he's also a great connector. So if somebody has a problem, especially if he's really good at connecting people with healthcare to doctors and to people to provide, to give advice on cancer patients or things that are happening in life. He's really proactive about connecting the people he knows and likes and trusts to other people who can really help them, with their lives.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, let's talk a little bit more let's start talking about kind of your approach, and how people find you. So how do you typically, where do you typically find your clients, and what are some of the ways you get to know them as individuals?
I mean, mostly referrals. We're still mostly referral-based business. I'm trying to have more predictability, educate prospective clients and people who know us about what we do. Because I think that people don't necessarily understand. They think we just invest money. But our biggest value add is consistency. We keep clients consistently invested in an appropriate portfolio for them. B, we help them understand different strategies from a tax perspective or from an estate perspective that might help them feel better about the use of their money over the long run, and hopefully reduce some tax burden over the long run. Sometimes we encourage paying tax now to save in the future. But we listen to our clients. We hear what they're thinking, what their values are, and then we try to align our strategies and approaches to their values. We say, I used to call it meet you where you are. That's another one of our core values. We want to listen to you. We want to hear you. We want to apply what we know and what we think about your future to your situation. And we recognize we don't want to change everything right away. We want to slowly pull you to where we think you're in a great position financially, and you have a good understanding, and you have trust and comfort to call us if something changes.
All right. So you shared a couple of your values. I know that was something before the call, before we start recording, that you wanted to talk more about. What are your core values? Is that something you'd like to share?
I think the most important one is people over portfolios. Some people want to see their portfolio grow over time, and that's the most important thing to them. Some people want to use that money, to go on a trip with their grandkids. They want to use it to help their grandkids pay for college. They want to help support themselves in their goals in terms of they want to go on some nice vacations or buy a nice car or play golf every day or whatever they want to do. We want to make sure that we can help them understand how they can do that and what the trade-offs might be in the future if they choose that path. And we'll keep pushing. Like we're thinking about what you want, even if you're not telling us. We're listening. We're hearing. We're not going to push you past your comfort zone, but we're going to really, really think about driving money, the use of your money towards what you want ultimately.
Yeah,
and life is about trade-offs. Whether you have 20 million or whether you have 2 million or whether you have 500,000, it's all about trade-offs. You can't do everything. The $20 million client is deciding, things that are like private versus first class. The $5 million client is second home. Can I afford a second home? Well, maybe it makes more sense to rent. Maybe I like just being in two places and I don't need to travel a lot. Those are the decisions I'm making. And then the $500,000 client is, I just don't want to run out of money and I have long-term care issues and they want to make sure that they're protected against the things that are on their minds. But they all have the same trade-offs they got to make in their life.
Yeah, you can say you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So every time you say yes to something, you're implicitly saying no to something else, right?
So I think it's important that we help clients break down their needs, their wants, and their hopes. Like, what are their dreams? And I hope we can help them make some of their dreams come true, most of their wants come true, and all of their needs come true.
I love that. That's really cool.
The other thing that I think makes us a little unique and different is we are not going to push for every dollar to be invested in under our auspice. We think about the person. Like, for example, we can manage clients' 401k plans directly through a platform and charge a fee, or we can just help them with it on an annual basis. And that's thinking about the person and what's going to be best for them and making a recommendation, accordingly. Because I believe, and I'm lucky to be put in this situation that I can do this, I believe you make people feel comfortable. They're going to be successful. They're going to trust you more. And whether it's a referral or later in the future, you get more assets to manage, we're going to help them grow their whole net worth, if that's what their goal is, especially when they're young and they're accumulators. And then over time, we're going to benefit way more than trying to tell people it's in their best interest to roll their money over to us to manage in an IRA or have us manage their 401k direct.
Sure. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about what you're working on in your practice. So when it comes to your practice, where do you see it in the next 1 to 3 years? What's your vision? Are there any goals that you're working on?
Well, my goal is to have more focus to what I do. I am developing a webinar and educational event for widow and widowers, and I really want to give people who want that support some free education, as well as know that there's somebody who emotionally gets what you're going through. When I lost my wife a little over 2 years ago, I have 2 kids, 10 and 5, and it was a lot emotionally, and I was exhausted just doing things I know how to do very, very well. I've guided many people through either helping with their parents' estate or their spouse's estate, and it just was exhausting for me. And I recognize now the challenge that a lot of people go through, especially when they don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that they need to have more resources that don't charge an hourly fee to help people through that.
Yeah. Wow. That's heavy, man.
And so
especially
that's what I want to work on. That's what I want to prioritize in terms of my marketing efforts and my education efforts. And then I want to support my junior advisor, Alex, in the growth in his career to serve the people that he wants to serve.
That's great. I can see.
I'm really big about vendors, employees, all the constituents. like my partners slash vendors, I want them to be profitable serving us. I want my clients to feel great that we're helping them achieve their goals and objectives. We're making smart investment decisions for them, and we're making recommendations and connecting them with good people. And then I want my employees to feel like they have a career path to achieve their goals and objective, whether it be make a lot of money or whether it be, work 3 or 4 days a week and make that trade off from a compensation perspective. And I feel like we're small enough and nimble enough that I can outsource if I need to, or I can insource if that's what people want, and they can show that they can do the work.
I like it. I like how you're helping people figure out what they want and then giving them a path to get there in a way that's mutually beneficial. I love that. I've seen some continuity between not just how you work with your clients, but also your team and your company. So that's really cool.
I mean, I'm not going to hire people who aren't going to have the ability to have the freedom to, go to their kid's soccer game or go to a doctor's appointment, because I want them to do that. But I need to trust them that they're going to get their work done for clients, because if they're not delivering for the company and the organization, then there's no point in that.
Sure. Well, it's the thing that's giving them ability to do that, right? So it's your responsibility to kind of protect that. So you got to make sure that the people you're hiring are supporting that goal and supporting that vision. And there's continuity between that and how you also serve your clients. So I love that. Let's talk a little bit about maybe influence and how you've grown. So as your practice has grown, are there any like programs or trainings that have kind of shaped your approach or your philosophy and maybe positively impacted how you serve your clients? Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
I think there's one program that I think has been helpful, and I think will continue to be helpful if they're still, operating. But I think just the general methodology, I use a program called Elements. And it's especially great for young people who want an app on their phone that helps them measure their progress. And it gives them very simple to understand metrics. And we can then put it in a framework of how do you compare to other people your age. I think that's super helpful for people, because traditional financial planning has been all about a Monte Carlo or cash flow simulation. And I think sometimes the end client, that's just like, it's just noise in their head that they don't truly understand. And so if we can help, say you grew your income, you grew your spending, you grew your savings rates, and then they have different metrics on liquidity, which measure retirement readiness, and then also if you want to put a down payment on your first home, like how much liquidity do I need to have? And they measure it in years of expenses, and I really feel like that's an easy thing for people to understand. And it gives junior advisors a way to learn how to advise clients, because it gives them a clear training on basic financial advice without getting into complex future cash flow stuff. And then they can jump into that next as they're studying for the CFP and they're really getting their feet wet. So I like that. I think, small advisors like myself, we can't build and develop our own training program from scratch. We have to kind of lean on other resources out there, sure, but still put our own spin on it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Elements. It's nice and simple, so I like that. I can also see how it gives the people in your junior advisors who are learning, it kind of give them more of a hands-on, tangible way to kind of digest some of the information. So I really like that. Really like it. Okay, let's talk more about what it's like to work with you. So let's say somebody becomes a client today. What happens the first couple of weeks? What does onboarding look like? What does it look like to work with you during the course of a calendar year?
Yeah, so I mean, onboarding is pretty straightforward. We'll get your Elements profile set up. We'll get a financial plan set up in our financial planning software, and we will help you transfer whatever assets make sense to move to us, and connect other assets to our accounts that can be. And then we'll kind of help block and tackle what your 401k allocations. We'll get on a screen share and help you make sure that those are in line with what we're thinking about from an investment perspective. I mean, we'll make sure you're taking advantage of all your employer benefits. We'll make sure that all of your investments are in the right account types. So tax optimize your investments to the extent that we can. And we'll onboard your accounts, and when we'll do a basic financial plan with some key tasks that need to be accomplished in the next 12 months. If you do you have estate planning documents, are they in line with your goals and objectives? Do you have enough life insurance, or do you have life insurance you don't need anymore? Kind of all of those things. And are you doing IRA contributions or Roth IRA contributions? We'll kind of get a roadmap for you of what the next 12 months looks like for you. And then, we kind of have different tiers of clients because we want to be able to work with everybody and give them the value of financial advice at the right cost. And so we have, clients who are on a $100 a month subscription model for under $750,000 of assets. And they get a once a year, we call it an annual update call, where we go through everything. And they get a quarterly email with a scheduling link. Just as here's something we noticed about your financial profile, or here's some things you should be able to work on. Let us know if you need help with them, or if you have any other questions that come up in your life. Because we want to provide that reminder we're here for you, because we are. Just because you pay me $100 a month and we have a $50,000 account doesn't mean you shouldn't call if you have a big important question.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about that is you have a model for people who aren't yet maybe ready for the AUM structure. So you're kind of giving them the support that they need to kind of get to the point where it might make more sense to work for you even more closely with them.
Correct. And so
that's the case.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have some wealthy clients who just pay us $100 a month. I think it's great, and we haven't really been taken up on this, but you have one spouse, husband or wife, who's the do-it-yourselfer. You're getting into your 60s or 70s. If something happens to you, who's going to help the spouse who doesn't know or doesn't feel comfortable? You got to develop a relationship with somebody who can help support them through that life transition, because their whole world they've been living, you've lived together, you've supported each other for 30, 40 years. And now all of a sudden you don't have that person. And then you also need financial help, and you got to build trust with somebody while you're in that altered emotional state. I just don't think that it's worth the money if you have, significant assets, to not just pay that person for once a year that you think, and build that relationship with your spouse, sure, leading the way on that. So
sure.
And then we have our traditional, we call it private client, but that's just a name, where we do proactive outreach. We do retirement planning in the spring, tax planning in the fall, and then estate planning in the summer for those who are kind of in the top tier of clients who need the estate projections. We'll obviously review, make sure you have all your documents, make sure they're set up right for any of our clients. But we're proactively projecting out their estate tax and determining if there's any strategies that make sense. Or a lot of times it's just reminding them of what we talked about last year, and they may have decided not to do it last year, but maybe this year they feel differently. And it's kind of, we don't want to force people to meet with us and spend a lot of the time on this stuff if they don't want to, but we want them to know we're looking out for them, even when they're not engaging with us, that we are thinking about them.
Man, $100 per month for that accountability seems like a good investment, for sure. All right, so we're about at time, but I want to make sure that we ask this final question. So for anybody who's listening, who's interested in learning more about how they might be able to work with you, or that wants to get in touch, what should they do next?
So our website is www.mendelmoney.com. And you can go to the website and you can schedule a free 15-minute personal path consultation. So we basically have a personal path planning process, and we'll kind of see if you're right for that on that call, if we're a good fit, if you enjoy talking to us, you feel good about talking to us, and we feel good about working with you, then we can kind of decide what the next steps are. So happy to provide, just a general assessment of where you are today and see if it makes sense to talk again.
Awesome.
My promise is always no pressure. Like I'm not gonna put pressure on people to do something they're not comfortable doing. I think the best clients come from clients who want the advice and who value us. And I really want to develop that great long-term relationship, 10, 20 years, and if they're not ready, they're not ready. We'll be here when they are.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. Really enjoyed the conversation. And look forward to talking again.
Sounds good. Thank you, Greg.